We are back. Oakland Sports, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and it's a somber week, to say the least, in America. And can't be denied, the host and hostess and I have been talking off the air, and all that's on our mind is the situation going on. Let me introduce Nancy Finley.
Hello.
And Jerry Feitelberg. Ladies and gentlemen, nice to have you back as host and co-host.
Nice to be here.
My pleasure.
And Jerry has an interesting story.
We're talking off the air, and I had to interrupt Jerry on his very, very poignant and interesting story, and asked him to wait a moment until I could push a button. And Jerry Feitelberg, please.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, when the events unfolded and we started to learn the names of the victims, yesterday my older daughter, who's on vacation in Europe at the moment, she received notice from the district attorney's office in Los Angeles. My daughter is a deputy district attorney in L.A. County. She has been assigned to hardcore gangbangers for almost 5 years, and she prosecutes these guys who take the lives of precious people, and she sends them to death row or to prison for life or whatever. She sent out a notice that one of her coworkers, her fellow prosecutors, a gentleman by the name of Michael Duarte, lost his 22-year-old daughter in Las Vegas.
Oh, no.
And Michael is one of the guys who's been prosecuting the bad guys for years, and it's just so sad. And the young lady just graduated from college, and she had a job working, I believe, with the L.A. Kings, and was looking forward to a very long and productive life, and it was cut short by this madman who did this unspeakable act on Sunday night. Or I don't know, Sunday night or Saturday night. Whatever night it was just horrible.
What can generate such hatred in a human being for fellow human beings?
Last night, I have to say,
it's Hitler-like mentality.
I heard that an FBI profiler said at this moment he can't even give any clues to what might have been in this person's mind. That's interesting.
Well, you know, his father, the accused
FBI's wanted list,
was on the FBI most wanted list, was some sort of serial cuckoo back in the day that did some sociopathic stuff. So you wonder how much of it is inherited. And
I do. I know. They didn't know there had a parent.
In my mind, what just bothers me is that this this monster had accumulated wealth. He wasn't hurting for money.
I know. And
the country, even though he may have had some anger at society for taking away his father for whatever reason, it just doesn't add up to doing what he did.
And
who knows?
It's a lot of work to check those in at, the death front.
Yeah, so people are saying now it could be an inside job because of that. And
possible. How did the guns
how do you respond to that first, Nancy?
Well, I'd want to see
possibility of it being because it's too immense. I mean, duffel bags full of rifles.
But then I hear that.
Isn't there a cleaning woman that comes in and says?
Well, that's what I asked. I asked, well, let's interview housekeeping. But what I wondered is they have gun shows. People do, the sellers check into these hotels. I don't know how massive those bags would be. I don't know if you could take those apart or what. But I want to see video of him checking into the hotel, having someone offer to take his bags up. I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I want to see what the blood. I want to see what the traces of blood under Bernie Sanders' fingers look like from all
Whoa!
of this?
Oh, he's been quiet, hasn't he? Whoa!
Yeah, well,
that I want to see the video.
And not just Bernie Sanders. Everybody in Congress takes money from the NRA, and I'm seeing things. I'm out of touch. I'm not a rifle guy.
No, I'm not either.
Go to shows. I don't have any idea what's going on. They have something now, not just a magazine, some kind of thing that even Republicans are coming in Congress looking at this thing and saying it increases the amount of bullets that can be fired per second immensely, and who in the hell needs that stuff, let alone a magazine? And what kind of a society do we live in that we give in to the folks that make weapons as a living? And not just here, they sell them all over the world. They keep it going.
Texans have rifles. That's the biggest thing I've seen as a perk that an individual has, but not a machine gun, not things that they use.
No, we had a ban on assault weapons until a few years ago, and the ban expired, and the Congress did not renew it, and it allows for assault weapons to be sold. Oh. And apparently, with this bump thing that they have, you can make it into an automatic weapon, and it's just horrific. Ralph, were you in the military by any chance?
I was in the Air Force, and I fired a gun in basic training in M16.
Morgan was in charge of howitzers. I guess that.
They were ready on the right flank, ready on the left flank, and ready on the firing line.
So you understand.
And I went into action. I hit that target with great regularity.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in the Army too for basic training, and we had the same thing. But I'm going to give you another little story about what. I don't know if they can do this at the hotels or whatever. I went to India 3 years ago, and we were in Mumbai, and we stayed at the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel. And in 2008, I think 170 people perished because of an attack in the hotel. So while we were there, it happened that we were there on the 6th anniversary of the shootings, and but we saw what they do for security. Every car that comes into the hotel, they stop every car and they search every car to make sure that no contraband is being smuggled into the hotel, so that another attack can occur.
That's common sense.
It's kind of hard to do, but at their place it wasn't that bad. They had these posts that they could lower down into the road, let the car in, then lower it up. So they checked each car at a time. I don't know if they could do that in Las Vegas or whatever. And again, I'm not familiar with the Mandalay Bay where the parking structure is. It used to be, remember in the old days back in Las Vegas, you used to just park outside the hotel and you'd go in through the lobby.
Yeah.
Now they all have parking garages, and so it's a pretty good walk sometimes from the car to the hotel lobby. And how does a guy get 26 weapons in? They said he had a golf bag.
Well, can these be taken apart and made smaller?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point, Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy, what did not to interrupt you, Jerry? What did because Nancy and I were talking before you came on off the air about the trials and tribulations that the Finley regime went through in regard to threats and what have you.
Well,
you want to elaborate on that, Nancy?
Well,
please?
yes, we were really in. We used the FBI. We paid the FBI a lot, and they're not in uniform most of the time. And I remember when the FBI made a custom baseball bat for Monty Moore from our 1973 World Series. That tells you how close the relationship was. I know in our box seats and the press box, there was always an FBI person plain clothes at the games, and and Dad arranged that because of all the threats we had, and then Dad having a cousin in the Dallas FBI, so he got to know a lot of the people with the FBI out here. And I know Dad once said his good friend just took down a hijacker at SFO and stuff like that. And so
cool.
I knew that they were present at the games, especially when we received threats. And I'm not quite sure what happened, but they were able to keep things under control. They reported to Dad.
In what form did these threats come, and who took the calls?
It was the switchboard operator, because I was sitting there. I often went in to sit next to them because they like to be chatty in between calls, depended. And I saw her face. And so I would listen in, and then sometimes I answered the call. And they would talk about how they were going to kill Finley when he came to town. They knew they were going to kill Finley. I had to stay out of school the whole last part of '73. I did not go back to school until January '74 because there were kidnap threats against the Finley kids.
Well, and as Jerry pointed out off the air, this was all before Al-Qaeda, ISIS,
this was SLA,
all the craziness that we have going on overseas. We used to have domestic terrorism, back then, let me think. Back then, I remember hearing about a Getty teenager in Italy who was kidnapped. And
Correct.
Was cut off. Okay. And then you have Patty Hearst, which was 70. That's true. Yeah. Oh, I know this because that was in the middle of when we were being threatened, and Dad was always big on not having a routine. He was funny. And then Dad would always show me shortcuts, like if a freeway, you don't want to always depend on the same route. I mean, I just didn't. That's my dad. And so. Well,
that was sound advice.
Always showing me another way out, always.
Exactly.
And I never knew why. I just thought that was his hobby. But he always said, don't do something the same time every day. And so.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so he would pick me up. I would get out of school at different times, but I just had to stay out of school and be homeschooled for the rest of. After the World Series, that's when Marcus Foster was assassinated by the SLA, and they said they were gunning for Charlie, but they couldn't find him. He was number one.
Whoa, indeed.
So yes.
Whoa.
So,
all the animosity to someone who's running a baseball team. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah. Who would think of these things?
And Dad, we knew my cousins were safer because they're in this suburb of LaPorte. They are surrounded. They have the high fences, but out here, Dad, I'm going to this public school. But Dad was sort of hiding me in plain sight because he liked to keep people off kilter, like maybe wondering, is she really one of those Finleys, And so he just felt like he really couldn't do that securely, 100% securely.
I just got to say, Nancy, from talking to you about your dad and your uncle all this time, and from reading the book, your dad was a much more interesting, if not with the flair, than your uncle, than your cousin.
I agree. I agree. Dad was like, Dad ran so much.
I mean, Charlie had the flair and the ability to stir up stuff.
And ego.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But nobody knows. This is so cool because nobody knows. Everybody, Charlie just left the team out here to Oakland with his cousin, and they didn't really give a damn. No, the team was in good hands. They won 3 in a row.
If Dad hadn't lived here and ran everything day to day, the team would not have been here. It would not have I mean, who else could have done that? I know my cousins wouldn't have done that. And Dad did beef our yearbook up. I'll see names who I know weren't there, and like my cousin and Charlie, and then Aunt Shirley, and they weren't there. Dad's doing it to beef everything up. Another thing is we didn't have business cards. And I look at that and think, okay, yeah, there was a cost factor, I'm sure. But also, this way you weren't pinned into a certain job. Dad could.
Right.
Dad.
Hey, can I give you guys a recall? We were all there, but this will put the times back into perspective. If you have the 1973 Oakland World Series program against the Mets,
yes.
and somewhere in my archives I do, there's a little ad in the back of the magazine for Prudential life insurance. And there were two guys selling Prudential who advertised. One was Raleigh Fingers, and I think the other one was Joe Rudy, as a matter of fact.
I have to
look.
The
three of us all lived in Danville at the same time. And I was in the insurance business. I had a little insurance agency in Danville.
Really?
And we'd walk across the street to the post office where Big Ben's was in downtown Danville together. My office was right there. These guys, this was before free agency, and these guys made their living in the off-season selling insurance.
Wow, because I was really?
Yeah, and just you go back. We're talking.
Yeah, that was the way it was done in the old days.
Yeah, it was. Ball players did make more money than the average person, if you will, in the community, but not that much more money. I mean, you can look at the salary structure today, and God bless them, they deserve every penny they get. This station has taken a stand on the union being fair to players who are not pensioned, but which would be good, and that's another story for another day. But all in all, they're the strongest union in the world, and the players deserve what somebody will pay them.
Well, Dad taught Laney. Dad taught business law at Laney in the off season. That's ironic, Laney. But
really,
yes, and he went over to College of Alameda to fill in. But business law, that was his thing, and he taught that in the off season because he was a teacher at heart. And but you know what's interesting? I wonder Danville. I wonder who introduced them to Danville, because wasn't that a really
well? They were in Walnut. I think the office of Prudential at that time was in Walnut Creek, but Raleigh Fingers and I would cross paths and walk. I remember this, and it is literally 1973, because again I was a Mets fan and spent the sixth game in the right field grandstands looking down, and the place was not filled, which brings us to another
You mean
another
here or in New
topic.
York? You were here or New York at that time?
I was here.
Okay, game 6. Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the quirks in the when Charlie owned the team, is that they couldn't sell out the ballpark for the playoffs of the World Series.
You know what though? Yeah. I worked big time helping to sell tickets, because we had a secret location and we didn't just call an employment agency because we wanted to trust the people. So Dad actually had me come in all day and help it was opening envelopes all day. And I remember we had a lot of people who wanted like the same seat. That was one of the problems. You couldn't. Sometimes they weren't.
You couldn't guarantee it.
Exactly. In fact, I was going to have one of my chapters, section 121, because that was where so many people requested. But you just made me think of that, because I remember how there were a lot of requests for like bulk seats, and so I'm just wondering if those were maybe bulk and they just didn't sell, or maybe it was. That's good to know, because I have pictures of most of the Coliseum filled, but I do wonder.
But it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. You could see it on TV, way out maybe in the third deck in section 325. Way out there, you'd be some empty seats.
And also,
well, I can attest. I was there. It wasn't. It wasn't filled.
Yeah, it was too.
I think.
Too. I'm wondering about.
That's not the point. It wasn't filled on a regular basis all the way through the World Series.
Really?
They weren't getting. I mean.
Really?
You know the team.
I do. I do. I just know. I'm thinking that. Oh, one of the tickets I have is for the third deck with Charlie O kicking on it.
Oh, okay.
And you know what? It's unfortunate.
Well, that was. Hey, I'm indebted to you. I put the picture of Jack Benny and your cousin, or your uncle. And Bowie Kuhn, I can't get him out of that picture.
You can cut him. You can crop that.
You have to be very careful, but I don't have the luxury of having more pictures in case I F it up.
Well, that's mine, so I can have more.
Can I diverge for just a second?
Yes,
please.
We had a discussion over it at in the media lounge before the season ended, and it had to do with the new stadium. And we were thinking, what could be better than, all the new stadiums have statues of the great players.
Oh, yeah.
But we bounced around the thought about having a statue of Charlie O, the mule, for the stadium. Do you think that would play? Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It would have to be both of them. It would have to be Charlie O next to the mule.
And
would be. That's true.
Charlie O next to Charlie O.
That was his, that was like his child.
Yeah.
Now, where did he board the mule? I might have asked you this before, but I don't. Go ahead. Did I lose you, Nancy?
We may have lost her.
We may have lost Nancy.
Well, hopefully she'll call back in.
But what happens if we don't find out where they boarded the mule, Jerry?
We'll have to look it up on Google.
I mean, we're going to leave these people. They're going to go, now we have to die. Everybody has to die curious over this, over technical problems that were probably caused by Comcast or Radio Shack or a combination of the both.
Who knows? Technology can be wonderful and it can be terrible.
Oh, here I am.
Here you are, Nancy. We're going to find out, thank God, where Charlie boarded the mule, because I forgot. You told me once.
Boarded the mule. Okay, it was at Skyline Stables, also known as Ranch, and Dad found that location because it was in Oakland. See, this is when we were in Kansas City. So Dad was calling around as soon as we found out we had to go to Oakland, because that wasn't that wasn't something planned. It was something we had to do. We had to get out right away. So Dad called, and that was the only place in Oakland he could find that could do the boarding we needed. So that's how we found it.
Good.
And
I'm glad you had the sense to call right back when you cut off, because we were just bemoaning technology.
But,
I blame all bad things on either Radio Shack or Comcast.
Oh yeah,
so whatever happens bad, it's either one of those two or both of them in conjunction.
Oh, I don't like technology. Anyway, I was going to say that. Jerry, I love to hear about statues, because I know Philadelphia has a statue of Connie Mack, and they're not even the Athletics anymore. So
no, but he's part of history for how many years? Over half a century.
I know. I talked to Connie Mack. I think it's the third, who was a senator.
Yeah, from Florida.
Yes,
Yes, a very right wing kind of guy.
Yeah, I've communicated with Connie, and he was writing a book, and I'm thinking, oh, that's great, a book about his family and baseball. No, it's about his political life, career. So he doesn't look at, it happened so long ago in his family. I think when he was born, they might have been just selling the team. So with him, he's a gentleman, very nice person, but
given his name, you would think he'd have some absolute curiosity to find out what his roots were.
Well, he does. I think he knows. So I think he knows about as much as he thinks he can know that there is out there. But he is very political. He loves politics, and that's what he was working on. And I told him about my.
Interesting.
Look,
Jerry.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that there's a statue of Connie Mack. Of course, you know Mack was born in 1862, and I don't know if his daughter Ruth is still alive. He married twice.
Yeah.
And I know our friend in San Francisco, Marty Lurie, I think when he was with the A's, did an interview with Ruth, and she was in her 90s at the time. If she's alive, she's just close to her.
I should call Marty and ask about what he knows about that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, Eddie
Marty's my good Facebook friend and been very supportive. Get him to come on our show, Nancy.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I sent him an email about a week ago just to verify that was still his email. I will do that. In fact, I was thinking, I heard that Eddie Robertson, who worked in our front office in the 60s, I've always loved his dimples. He's in his 90s, and he was just honored at SMU in Dallas. And I thought, wow, I'm so glad to hear he's still here with us. He's in Fort Worth.
All right.
So.
Okay, I want you guys to both indulge me because before Jerry came on the show, we were doing, Nancy and I, we probably did 4, 5, 6 of these things. And we talked about Kansas City and what the A's back then and Charlie put up with and the cause of the move and what have you.
It had a lot to do with
Oakland. I just wanted to read the final part of a chapter called Don't Cry for Me, Kansas City.
Oh, my God.
Which is in Nancy's book. And it kind of sums it up, and I kind of smiled at the title. Wonder where the title came from, Nancy, because Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, and all that. Or at first I thought it was Don't Shave for Me, Argentina, but it was Don't Cry for Me, Argentina.
I just remembered that play.
Yes. And I remember my silly jokes, so please indulge me in reading this.
Thank you.
This will sum up Nancy's thoughts, and it's really well put. So here I go. And this is Nancy. To this day, Kansas Cityans blame Charlie for moving the A's out of Kansas City. But a closer look at the facts show that Charlie did all he could to stay in the town and make the fans happy. He spent $500,000 to renovate Municipal Stadium in 1961. He pledged $150,000 to bring the Beatles into Kansas City in 1964. He put money into every kind of promotion he could draw the ballpark that he could think of. He pushed MLB to have night games so workers could watch the games. I assume you mean in the playoffs in the World Series. Well, that was in Kansas City.
Right.
So I really don't know what you mean.
We didn't get that.
No.
In any event, and he gave the team a Charlie O mascot, and he really tried. Your words. The civic political leaders of Kansas City, especially Ernie Mell in the newspaper, could have made the difference. With a little good faith on their part, Charlie Finley and the Kansas City A's probably wouldn't have left. Mm-hmm. Now, the bad press continued even after the move to Oakland. On the floor of the Senate, Stuart Symington of Missouri declared, "Oakland is now the luckiest city since Hiroshima." After 3 World Series champions,
Where's an
Nancy
apology?
goes on to say, who's lucky now? Oakland probably did consider itself pretty lucky. Ernie Mel got what he wanted. Charlie Finley was gone from Kansas City. Charlie, for his part, freed himself from uncooperative city authorities and toxic public relations. Things continued in Oakland the same way.
Not as bad. Not nearly as bad, though.
Not nearly as bad. But I think where you guys blew it, like we talked about, was with Mel. Not necessarily that you guys blew it, that some compromise wasn't made.
I think of that often.
He held a lot. Journalism is very powerful.
It is. As we
can see with the Internet, now there's powerful factions in the Internet, in news and every level. Sports as well.
By the way, something else Simonton said, I didn't put in there, I didn't want to just go on, but he said, I think I'll tell my good friend Knowlton, Senator Knowlton in the Bay Area, to watch out for Finley. Well, Knowlton owned the Tribune at the time. So what looks like happened is, like Ernie Mel, people reached out here and said, oh, my God, you're getting Finley, watch out. So we weren't able to have a fresh slate. But what was good is we didn't have someone like Ernie Mel doing what he was doing. We had some preconceived ideas with the press because of Mel, but it wasn't someone out to just stomp us down like Mel was doing. Mel brought in the Royals, and he got, he was happy. But it was. It's interesting, though, because they were making it look like we chose to leave. Well, we just couldn't afford the rent they had just slapped on us. And
in good faith, if you put $150,000 in those days, that was big bucks.
I know, and the Chiefs were still $1 a year, and then we went up to over $1 million.
Yeah,
they knew.
Yeah, and it's not much different when the Raiders came back. The A's were still paying the freight. And the Raiders were getting the
we were used to that.
bargains.
We were used to bowing to Davis.
Yeah.
He was always number one.
And I'll tell you, that big monster of a Davis Wall or whatever the hell it's called.
Oh yeah.
That ruins it. That ruins the ambiance of going out to a ball game in Oakland.
I'm claustrophobic with that thing. I wish that thing could at least be taken down now.
I'd like to see the mountains and.
I know.
It was a beautiful stadium, akin with what Kansas City was, a kind of a cookie cutter, but it had that beautiful in Kansas City, the waterfalls and. You had the hills of Oakland.
We did fireworks after every home run. I hear that's expensive, but you know what? Charlie's insurance company subsidized that team for the first couple of years. He didn't want his pride didn't want anyone to know that.
Hey, Charlie bought artificial hands for guys that blew their hands off in those fireworks. Charlie was very magnanimous.
Well, he had that contact with the doctors, and he
did.
You did, So, and then I wanted to tell you, Ralph, you mentioned employer-employee law once. Since Dad had gone to law school, that was always, Dad's concern was always the liability out here and whether people were being treated fair, fans were happy, employees were happy, but not taking too much time off. I mean, Dad signed off on the roster every day. Everyone was coming up to Dad. Can you ask Mr. Finley this or that? And so it was just that's what Dad did, and Dad didn't have to have his ego out there. He gave.
Actually, it sounds like he preferred that you guys weren't in the open. He was trying to get you to take different routes to school, and he realized the price of celebrity.
Oh, he thought it was ridiculous when people bragged about what they owned, like, look at this new $1,000 purse I bought. I mean, oh my gosh, that's just asking for it. That's how Dad looked at things. He never wanted to look like he had anything. Just the opposite.
Just keep it low key. Just keep a low key and not a huge profile.
Yes, and I will say after they moved out here is when Dad quit several times. That didn't happen in Kansas City. So Kansas City was when all the scouting was being done with, I see Tony La Russa in 1965. It's in our yearbook, is up and coming. So we see potential in him. But by the time we're out here...
A, B, Z, D, L, O, L. Oh, that was my Tony La Russa.
Oh, yeah, no, I can see that. I have that yearbook. But when we come out here, all of a sudden we start doing better, which I think with the atmosphere in Kansas City, that might have held us down. But also, we just come out like gangbusters, but yet that caused a different kind of stress. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know anything about who actually scouted these players like Blue Moon Odom and Vita Blue? Charlie wasn't out there looking at high school baseball.
No.
Who were some of the people that were instrumental in building that team? Besides, Charlie had a big part in it, but who were some of the basic quote baseball people end quote?
Well, what we did is we encouraged high school sports teachers to write to us. Right. Yes, thank you. Coaches. If they had anyone that looked like he had potential, we encouraged that. And so the letters would come to the Coliseum, and in those, I see these checks with Dad's name. It just says Kansas City Municipal Stadium. I mean, it's like that's where Dad lived practically. So when we had tips like that, then Dad or Charlie, or we would send someone from one of our departments to go down and take a look, and then we have
one of the baseball departments. Do you remember some of those names?
Oh, gosh. Oh, Pat Friday, but he was insurance. He didn't really want to be there very long. I'm trying to remember another name. Eddie was one. Eddie Robertson.
Okay.
Jay Hankin, and he was a former player. And then we had a bat boy who was in 1959. He wasn't under our ownership, but he would run errands for us like that. And what we needed someone to get on the phone and tell us what they're seeing.
So you didn't have a full-time scouting department at that time.
No.
You had more or less independent contractors that you.
Thank you. Yes. And we had farm
teams. Needed work done.
Yeah, but
I think they called them bird dogs. Bird dog scouts.
I like that. I know we depended on that.
Yeah, that was a baseball term.
And then I'll tell you this: the person we had out here in the minor league department, he was Charlie's. Well, let me see. He was his son's wife's brother.
Okay.
But we had him out here. He was very shy. But that's a lot of what he did.
Okay. Could you put a name behind the shy gentleman?
Sure. Last name was Kaselke, first name Norm.
Oh, Norm Kaselke. Okay.
You know it?
No, but he'd be too shy to know me.
He would. Now, Marcy dated him.
Oh.
I didn't even know that. I asked her, how did he even ask you out? I never heard him talk.
Whoa. Marcy's been on the show before. She's a charmer. Bring her back too sometime, Nancy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of stories to tell. Sometimes she just surprises me at something she knows. But anyway, yes. So
Jerry and I learned an awful lot. Think of all the ball players that came to this team back in those days, and you could describe the scouting system as being kind of helter-skelter at best, and there were a lot of teams that had full-time people going out, paying per diem and this, that, and the other thing that came up with bupkis compared to three championships in a row. So
and compare and contrast that with what's going on with the sabermetrics of today, when the A's have someone that concentrates on all the things like WAR and whatever they have. OPS.
Oh, they have a battery. Each team has a battery of people that sit in cubicles and digest this stuff, and they don't hire baseball people. They hire mathematicians, and they put together formulas.
No. I mean, stats is stats, and it's useful. You have to combine all of it.
Of course.
So,
but
we never ignored stats, but
the teams with money put it into technology, and they also put it into the scouts that go on and put a face to it all.
Has it paid off though, like what we did?
Well, what you did was pretty unique. Let's put it that way, Nancy.
See,
I say that in a respectful way. You know why it was different? What made it unique? It was different, and it won.
Probably
you
win,
and it worked.
Whatever you did worked.
I just, I think Charlie had to be. Like, with the playoffs and World Series, I really think it was crucial that he be watching like he did intently. And if he saw anything different or had an idea, he would call the manager and have a change made. No one else could do that. And I'm really curious to know if the synesthesia he had played a role in that.
I can picture Dick Williams.
Yeah.
The phone with
slamming
right
the phone.
Now.
Oh yeah.
Can't you, Jerry?
Oh, absolutely.
And you know what? Charlie became friends.
He'd love to receive that call.
In Charlie's mind, he was good friends with Dick Williams. I remember when he told Dad that he went against his own rule, and he became friends with an employee, and he needed Dad to be like the Dark Knight, be in the background, and be the one that he had to say he had to ask permission of, because he had a hard time being a boss with Dick Williams. I don't know. And
I'm sure he felt terribly hurt when Dick Williams opted out.
Oh, yeah. Well, he understood because Dick gave his notice before that ever happened. He just wanted to get back to the East Coast, and he was never really a people person. This is what I don't know. I can't say that as a teenager for sure, but I do remember he was all business. If I walked by, just very gruff, high, and always looked like something was on his mind. Very focused, and not into what other teams, rumor mill, teams gossip, front offices gossip. He wasn't into that, and neither was Dad. And Charlie could care less. And
he won a pennant with the Red Sox, and a couple of years later he was gone, and it was the same thing. The players either didn't relate to him because he wasn't a people person, as you said.
Yeah.
He just didn't. He wasn't a buddy with them. Totally different.
Some managers are short-term managers, like they have short-term success, like Billy Martin had, and they burn out with They burn out.
But Williams, the players liked Williams. He was. In fact, it's interesting because I always hear he quit because he was tired of Charlie's crap. But that's not really the case because he quit before the incident happened. He gave his notice. It just wasn't in the press.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was the Andrews instance that precipitated it.
No, he'd get
or that. Go ahead, Jerry.
No, I have to jump off, Ralph. I got a call coming in, and I got to.
Okay, we've had a terrific show. I thank you both for being here, and we'll do it again next week, same time, same bad channel.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph.
All right. Glad everybody's happy. I'm glad you're out there listening. Everybody, keep on keeping on. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.